Hey, it's Realtor Jess here to talk about credit history and credit scores. You have to know what's on your credit report. You have to. Credit score is based on your credit history. So it's important to ensure that the history being reported is accurate. You may have disputes with the creditor that shouldn't even be on there. You might have co-signed for someone else and they didn't pay and that brought you down. You might have old credit cards you didn't use that closed without you knowing. So it's important to clear up any credit history issues or discrepancies before you start the home buying process. The best way to know what's in your credit report is to look at it. And we're not talking about your credit score, right? The number part. We're talking about the report, right? Several pages. Here's the history of what you've done with credit. And under federal law, you're able to get a free copy of your credit report from each of the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, for free one time each year. I'm going to put a link below to the website annualcreditreport.com where you can get that free credit report. Go ahead, get that report, know what's on it. Your credit score is based on your credit history. So anytime you're seeing a number out there like Credit Karma or like from your credit card company, it's basically their algorithm. They take your credit history and they use their own algorithm to give you a number. The number that lenders use is based on the Fair Isaac Corporation's FICO score. So that's an official algorithm that's used. And that algorithm uses many different pieces of data from your credit report to give you your FICO score. So that's a term of art, your FICO score. And so it's made up, 35% of it is payment history. So that's, are you paying on time? Are you late? 30% of that is amounts owed. So also known as your utilization ratio. How much of your credit are you using? Are you living up to the max, using every dime they'll give you? Or are you a little more responsible with credit and just using what you need? 15% is length of credit history. So how long have you been using credit? A person using credit for 20 years is obviously more responsible with it. I'll say more familiar with it than someone who's only been using it for 2 years, right? 10% of that is new credit. So every time you go to the store, are you opening a credit account, right? Don't do that. But are you, have credit lines that have been open for a long time? The longer they're open, the better. So sometimes people say, I've had clients who would say, I'm going to pay off my credit card and close it. And I'm like, no, don't do that, because then that shortens your length of credit history, right? And it also hurts your mix of new credit, because then the credit that you have left is all seen as much newer without any of this older credit line to balance it. So 10% of it's new credit. 10% is credit mix. So is your credit responsibility diversified? Okay, you're good with credit cards, but can you handle student loans? How are you with a car loan, right? Just like you want to make sure that a future romantic partner is good in multiple environments, your creditor wants to know that you're great with multiple kinds of debt. So it's important to make sure that you're being responsible on all of these fronts. Your 35% payment history, 30% of that's amounts owed, 15% length of credit history, 10% new credit, and 10% credit mix. So all the credit score, the FICO score, is really trying to do is gauge how responsible you are with credit. So creditors know, hey, if I give this person $500,000, what's the chance that they're going to actually pay it back to me? I mean, if you were giving somebody $500,000, you'd want some assurance that they were going to pay it back too, right? Your credit score does not have to be perfect to get a mortgage, right? The FICO score ranges from 300 to 850. You do not need an 850 to get a mortgage. You do not even need an 800 to get a mortgage. You don't even need 700 to get a mortgage, right? The minimum credit score for an FHA or VA loan is 580, and the minimum credit score for a conventional loan is 620. Now, some down payment assistance programs, like I mentioned in my last video, have credit score minimums. So here in the DMV, I know that DC Opens Doors and the Maryland Mortgage Program for some of its products have a minimum credit score of 640. So if you want some of that money, you want to make sure that you're at least a 640. And 760, although not required to get a mortgage, will allow you to get sort of what's considered the premium best rate. So there you have it, 580, 620, 640, 760. Don't need a perfect 850, just good enough. The main thing I want you to take away is that the score that you see, even when you pull your credit or when you're looking at it, you know, in the Credit Karma or whatever, is not the score that the lender is going to see. It's not. The lender is using a lender score. It's a form of the FICO. It's a certain kind of FICO score, but only lenders can see it. So the thing to know is that you won't know for sure what score the lender is going to use until you get your pre-approval. So thing to know is that the lender is going to actually pull a score from each of the bureaus. So they're going to pull Experian score, Equifax score, TransUnion score. Then they're generally going to take the middle score. And if there's two borrowers, they're going to take the lower of the middle score. So if your boo has a low credit score, you need to talk about it. Get it together, okay? Because the lowest one is going to pull you down. Also note that a single credit inquiry will not hurt your score. So if you go ahead and get the pre-approval, as you should after watching this video, but then you're like, oh, I'm not ready. I want to wait, a year or whatever. Having that credit pull doesn't hurt you. Also, to note, you don't have to stick with the lender that does your pre-approval. So a lot of people don't realize this. They're hesitant to do the pre-approval because they don't want to commit to a lender, It's not a marriage, okay? I always say go with the lender for the pre-approval that you feel most comfortable talking to and sharing a lot of your early information with. And then once you're under contract, you can take that contract and use that to what's called mortgage shop, right? And that's where you take this contract to lender B and lender C and say, hey, here's what lender A is offering me. Can you beat this? And they may say, yeah, or they may not, right? But at least you've done your due diligence. And you're able to do that because a lot of people ask me that. They're like, oh my God, what if I get, multiple credit pulls? Will it bring my score down? I've worked hard to get this perfect 760 and it's all going to come crumbling down. No, it's not. Federal law allows you to have multiple credit pulls for a mortgage application, okay, within a 45-day period. So don't run out there and take out, a new car loan. That's its own separate inquiry. But if you, let's say, have 3 lenders pull your credit to evaluate you for a mortgage application, those 3 pulls get counted as one single inquiry under federal law. Also note that pre-approval is good for about 120 days, so about 4 months. So if you're like, you know what, it's something that I want to do this season, by the end of the year, then definitely go ahead, get that pre-approval. And the best part is that a lender can tell you exactly what you need to do to pull your credit score up to where you want it to be. So if you're at, let's say, a 630 and you want to get to a 640 so you can do DC Open Stores and get that 3% down payment assistance, then have your pre-approval done. The lender will look at it and tell you, hey, do X, do Y, do Z, and that will help you get to a 640. And they can also do what's called rescoring, where you don't have, sometimes you don't have a couple of months to wait for it to cycle through the bureaus, and you want it done like that, right? The benefit of getting that pre-approval is that you do what the lender tells you to do to bring your score up, and then they'll go back to the bureaus for you and have that credit profile rescored. All right, time to recap. Know what's on your credit report by looking at it. Get your credit report for free at the link below. Keep your FICO score up by paying your debts on time, keeping your utilization low, I'd probably say about 30% or less, and not opening new credit accounts before you go get a mortgage. Seems simple, but a lot of people do it. Know that 580 is the minimum that you need in order to get a mortgage, and that 640 is a good rule of thumb if you know you're going to need some down payment assistance money. Lastly, getting your credit pulled for a pre-approval application can actually help you. Hear me out here, because it will allow you to know exactly what you need to do to qualify for a mortgage so that you're not out here spinning your wheels, paying off things that are unnecessary, and generally just wasting time when you could be in your dream home. Thanks for watching to the end. You are truly helping this queen achieve her dream.